could tell the world just one thing, it would be we're all okay. And not to worry, 'cause worry is wasteful and useless in times like these. I won't be made useless, won't be idle with despair. I will gather myself around my faith, 'cause light's what darkness most fears. My hands are small, I know, but they're not yours, they are my own. But they're not yours, they are my own, and I am never broken. Poverty stole your golden shoes, but it couldn't steal your laughter. When heartache came to visit me, I knew it wasn't ever after. We will fight, not out of spite, but someone must stand up for what's right. Where there's a man who has no voice, there ours shall go singing. My hands are small, I know, but they're not yours, they are my own. But they're not yours, they are my own, and I am never broken. In the end, only kindness matters. In the end, only kindness matters. I will get down on my knees and I will pray. I will get down on my knees and I will pray. I will get down on my knees and I will pray. My hands are small, I know, but they're not yours, they are my own. But they're not yours, they are my own, and I am never broken. My hands are small, I know, but they're not yours, they are my own. But they're not yours, they are my own, and I'm never broken. We are never broken. We are God's eyes. We are God's hands. We are God's mind. We are God's eyes. We are God's hands. We are God's mind. God's hands. God's hands.
Good morning. My name is Janice Tuck, and I serve on the Board of Trustees of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spartanburg this year. Thank you for joining us this morning. In cooperation with public health authorities, we have suspended all regular in-person church activities for the time being. As the pandemic continues, we understand there is a desire to find ways to meet in person. We are a congregation and we must work together. Our highest goal is our care for one another. If you desire access to the church building or grounds for any meeting, please contact the church office so that the board can vet your request to help you find the best and safest way to proceed in coordination with our whole congregation. Now allow me to share a few announcements this morning. We are organizing donations of flowers each Sunday's service this fall. This is a wonderful way for us to connect to this space and this congregation that we love. My husband Robert and I have provided the flowers for today, celebrating our first year anniversary. You also can be a part of celebrating this life and beautifying the church on Sundays. See the happenings for details if you are interested in participating. Shifting gears, we are planning 2 flu vaccine clinics to be held here at the church following strict safety protocols, mandatory wearing of masks and social distancing. These will be offered on Tuesday mornings, September the 29th and October the 6th for members and friends. The time frame is 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. We will schedule everyone for 10 minutes each. Please bring your insurance information or pay $30. Pneumovax will also be available for those who qualify. The sign-up for the time slots is posted in this week's happenings. This public health event is brought to you by our congregational nurse with support from the COVID-19 Ad Hoc Committee. This year, as part of our social justice work, we will host 4 congregational dialogues on becoming an anti-racist, anti-oppression, multicultural congregation. This is the work of consciousness. These will take place following Sunday services from 12:15 to 1:45 p.m. These will be in a virtual Zoom format. The first of these will be next Sunday, October the 4th. These sessions will strengthen how we work together and how we serve our community. They are all of us as a congregation. They will change us all. Please plan to attend. Especially in times like these, we need each other. Thank you for being a part of our congregation today. We are a people of faith and hope. Welcome.
Hello, I want to welcome you again. My name is Ruth Stanton, and I am serving as your worship associate this morning. Thank you for joining us today. Our minister, Scott Neely, is out of the pulpit one Sunday a month, and he will return next week. This month, we have been considering mysticism. Scott wrote beautifully in this month's newsletter, The Unison, defining mysticism as the experience of deep connectedness with ourselves, with one another, and with whatever is deepest and best in the world. We can bring mysticism to life literally with the breath, focusing on and harnessing our breathing, by working together with each other and considering the power of connection. I want to welcome you again with our chalice lighting that illuminates further the power of our connections. The Church has left the building, by Margaret Weiss. The church is not a place, it is a people. The church is not only a steeple above the tree-lined streets and cars. Rather, it is a people proclaiming to the world that we are here for the work of healing and justice. The church is not walls built stone upon stone, held together by mortar, but rather person linked with person, all ages and genders and abilities. A community built on the foundation of reason, faith, and love. The church is not just a set of doors open on Sunday morning, but the commitment day after day and moment by moment of our hearts creaking open the doors of welcome to the possibility of new experience and radical welcome. The church is not simply a building, a steeple, a pew. The church is the gathering together of all the people and experiences and fear and love and hope in our resilient hearts, gathering however we can to say to the world, welcome, come in and lay down your heartache and pick up hope and love. For the church is us, each and every one of us, together, a beacon of hope to this world that so sorely needs it. Today we have a message brought to us by the good fortune of a pulpit exchange. Mark Ward, a well-known UU minister, has a video message for us in just a few moments. He has been the lead minister of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Asheville since 2004. He's also a lifelong UU who entered ministry after 25 years as a newspaper journalist, and he is kept grounded by his wife, Debbie, 3 grown daughters, and 2 granddaughters. Mark will be speaking from the book Yes to Life by Viktor Frankl, and I have my little copy right here. It has been published by Beacon Press in 2019. And as an aside, Beacon Press is a publisher founded by and affiliated with the UUA, whose principles are the 7 UU principles. I thought that was awesome to have a publisher with that kind of values. Frankl was a noted professor of neurology and psychiatry at the University of Vienna, and was authentically able to discuss the meaning of life in all its difficulties, since he had survived the Nazi concentration camps in World War II. Frankl's previous book helped me tremendously when I was kind of a glum 20-something-year-old. At that point, to me, life seemed kind of tedious and blah. Seems like something we might be feeling a little bit right now with all this COVID times, kind of tedious and kind of blah and stressful. But when I read that book, I had a dawning of awareness, finding hope that suffering could be transcended and there would be meaning to life wherever I found myself. So I'm really looking forward to hearing Mark's comments on this newly published book, Yes to Life.
Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
Our covenant, written by this congregation, provides practical guidance of how we can live out our beliefs together in community. These words, powerful when they were written, continue to gain power as this community manifests their meaning in its work. Let us join our voices and speak the truth of our covenant. We are a people of faith and hope. Together we covenant to strive to become our better selves, to honor both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to respond to systems of violence and oppression with the power of a love beyond belief. And now we come to the part of our service where if we were gathered in this beautiful sanctuary, we would come forward and place a stone or a shell in our rippling bowl to represent joys and concerns. We will have a moment of silence in just a bit to hold one another in care, but please feel free to send a short message to someone on your mind, remembering that joys shared are multiplied and sorrows shared are diminished. Let us be together even though we are apart.
My life flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars? I know the truth it liveth. What though the darkness round me close? Songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
Many of us wonder how we can help in today's odd world of COVID and serious political strife. Please visit our website at uucs.org. Below where you see this live stream, you will see a button that says help, and you can push it. We have a list of things that can be done to help in these uncertain days. This includes advocacy in many ways to support us living out our covenant in today's world. In particular, I want to review one more time, advocacy around voting right now and repeating Karen Mitchell's 6 important steps. So number 1 was pay attention. We are all going to be able to vote absentee early this year without needing to provide an excuse. The calls and letters that many of us made to legislators moved the needle the right way. And please note that some of the things that our voting action team is doing, if you happen to drive by the church, please look at our new wayside pulpit signs and banner. They are encouraging voter registration at this time, and after the registration deadline, they will be switching to a focus to getting out the vote. There's a link on our advocacy page also to an inspiring presentation by the Reverend Dr. William Barber, who is co-chairing the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival. I want to, as sort of aside here, just to point out there's 1 week left to get registered to vote. I hope everybody that I'm speaking to is already up to date on their registration. But if not, you know who you are, and now is the time. Please reach out to neighbors and friends also to help them get registered, either online or by perhaps printing off a form and mailing it in, or dropping that form in form into the Spartanburg County voter registration. And number 2, remember, please talk with somebody different about voting every day till the election on November 3. Number 3, get out your calendar, mark the date you're going to vote, and make time on that day to vote, no matter how long it takes. It may take a while. And as an update, in-person absentee voting that was slated to start this coming week at Memorial Auditorium, with the new bill that allowed everybody to vote absentee without an excuse, they shortened the time of absentee voting a little bit, and it's going to start October 5th. So don't show up in Memorial Auditorium until October 5th or a little bit later. Number 4, follow instructions very carefully when you vote, especially if you're doing a mail-in absentee ballot. You want to make it easy for the person that receives that ballot that's counting it to correctly count your vote. Vote early. And number 6, have patience. Decide now that you will be patient for the results to come in. It's probably going to take days and maybe weeks for the count to come in. Stay focused on the facts and be patient. So we are in this time of uncertainty and strain, and we do bring our gifts to each other. We share them to benefit one another in our world, not to put any one of us at risk. Please give when and how you can to our church, never when you should not. All of our gifts, gifts of care, gifts of time, of skill, of resources, have a vital purpose. As many of you have already done, for gifts of time, as many of you have already done, if you have a gift you feel would be a benefit you'd like to share, skill with technology, transportation, food, and much more, please reach out to our minister, Scott Neely, or any of our church leaders. Many of you have already done so, and this has been tremendously helpful. For instance, our wonderful tech team volunteers to make these virtual services possible. Double and triple thanks to them. Today it's Andrew Cook and Pam Stoll. Gifts of treasure. Many of you have asked financially how to give financially to the church during this time since we're not meeting in person. You may give to the church online through that pushing that help button. And all the different ways that you can donate are listed at uucs.org/donate/. I want to just mention Share the Plate. Contributions can be made here. Pre-COVID, 2 Sundays a month, we would give half of any undesignated cash and all the designated gifts to Share the Plate. And those would go to an organization that was working to make the world more just and equitable. And it could be, we would choose organizations locally, nationwide, and worldwide as well. We're continuing that tradition even though we're not meeting in person. We just don't have the loose change rattling around right now. This month, we decided to give to the Congregation Voting Action Team as we near this important election. There's one more fund that I want to draw your attention to, and that is the support for immigrants in Spartanburg. We are partnered with the Alianza Spartanburg, previously the Hispanic Alliance, and the Pasos site in Spartanburg. Our congregation has established a fund to provide direct assistance to individuals and families who will not receive any federal assistance through the CARES Act because of their immigration status, even though these people pay taxes. Even if only one family member is out of legal status, no one in the family will receive funds, even children who are U.S. citizens. So this has been a very long list of all the different ways that we can help, but there are even more that can be accessed by that help button and also by participating with other partnering organizations. In all our difficulties of our current lives, there are still things that we can do to make a positive difference. From the Bengali poet Rabindranath Tagore, I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was duty. I worked, and behold, duty was joy. Please join me in a short time of meditation of these words. And now for our reading picked by our speaker, To Be of Use by Marge Piercy. The people I love the best jump headfirst into work without dallying in the shallows, and swim off with sure strokes almost out of sight. They seem to become natives of that element, black, sleek heads of seals bouncing like half-submerged balls. I love people who harness themselves an ox to a heavy cart, who pull like water buffalo with massive patience, who strain in the mud and the muck to move things forward, who do what has to be done again and again. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who are not parlor generals and field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire must be put out. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the hand, crumbles to dust. But the thing worth doing well done has a shape that satisfies, clean and evident. Greek amphoras for wine or oil, Hopi vases that held corn are put in museums, but you know they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry, and a person for work that is real. And now we'll hear Mark Ward's message.
I want to tell you what a joy it is for me to be with you here today. I've known the Spartanburg Church for many years. We in Asheville have collaborated with you on a number of regional UU initiatives, and I've always found a friendly welcome. In the last year, I had the distinct pleasure to serve as a long-distance intern supervisor for your minister, Scott Neely, a truly gifted colleague. It gave me the chance to observe the powerful ministry that you are creating together, and I wish you all the best in it. These COVID days are a topsy-turvy time for us all. Even those of us who have managed to avoid being sickened by the novel coronavirus are shaken, disoriented, and confused by both the dangers and the losses that we and so many others have endured in this pandemic. Those lucky enough to keep our jobs have still seen massive changes in what we do, with no assurance of how long our jobs will last. Face masks and social distancing have turned the simplest day-to-day tasks to awkward encounters, whether we're shopping for groceries or just catching up with a friend. And throughout, we live with a kind of low-level tension, worrying for our loved ones and even wondering when our own time might come. All of this can cause us to question what had been long-time certainties about our lives, who we are, what we do, what in the end matters in our lives. I was thinking about this recently while reading a new book published by our UU Beacon Press. I use air quotes, new, because while newly published, the material in this book was written some 75 years ago. And yet so much of it strikes me as speaking to the moment we find ourselves in now. That it should says something about just how dire our circumstances today feel. The book is entitled Yes to Life, and it's comprised of essays written by Viktor Frankl, the celebrated humanist psychologist, at another time when the world seemed turned upside down. The year was 1946. Only a year after the end of World War II. Frankl had arrived in Vienna after having been released from the Auschwitz concentration camp, where he'd managed to survive 3 years as a prisoner. Frankl had worked as a psychiatrist before the war, so he was invited to give a series of lectures on what he had learned while interned. Frankl told his audience that for all the losses that people had suffered during the war, what he found most alarming was the widespread sense of a loss of any kind of meaning in life. Even though the war was over, he said, people were spiritually bombed out by all that they had suffered. Everything in their lives had been disrupted. Many of the people they loved had been lost, and those conscripted in the war had lost any sense of dignity as persons. Instead, they'd been treated as mere means to the ends of the state. All this resulted in a kind of fatalism that left people cynical and disheartened. Frankl said that he himself had that sort of experience in the camp, a place where he had felt like a nameless thing to which his captors gave no value, other than what he could produce. It was a place where he had lost hope of any sort of progress, any sense that things would get better, or that there was anything he could rely on. All the ideologies, all the bromides that had comforted him in the past meant little. Whatever privilege or ambition he had carried from his past life had failed him, crumbled before his eyes. Confronted with this, he was left to ask, where do I find any sense of meaning for my life? He found his answer in the critical few in the camp who did not give in to fatalism. They were people who, he felt, showed by their actions a faith in their own humanity and in the humanity of their fellows in the camp. What he felt they came to see was that in the end, what remained was the individual person and nothing else. As Frankl put it, they came to see that everything depends on each person through action and not mere words, creatively making the meaning of life a reality in his or her own being. Let's explore what that might mean. We Americans grow up with the words of Thomas Jefferson echoing in our heads, that we each seek and that the state exists to protect life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That last phrase is particularly tricky. What do we mean by happiness? Is it the same as pleasure or something more? Frankl argued, and it's a good bet that Jefferson would too, that as enjoyable as pleasure may be, it's a fool's game to make it the goal of our lives. Satisfaction from pleasure, after all, is fleeting. It leaves us with no lasting sense of meaning, just a craving for the next hit of excitement. The happiness Jefferson hoped to promote was the joy that came from living a virtuous life, one where we realized our own best capacities and advanced the greater good. Frankl agreed. Happiness, he felt, came from discovering the gift that our lives embody and offering it to the world. It is what, in the words of the Bengali poet Rabindranath Tagore that you heard earlier, that Frankl found such an inspiration. Let me remind you of them. I slept and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was duty. I worked, and behold, duty was joy. That's a little jarring at first, isn't it? We don't usually equate duty with joy. Instead, we tend to see duty as some dull task that is somehow required of us. Do I have to? But as Frankl sees it, that's the problem. Meaning, he insists, is not something that we find. It's something we make. We frame it as a question that we ask of life. What is it? Where do we find it? Instead, he says, it's a question that life asks of us. How shall you make meaning here? In answering that question, we find our duty. As Frankl saw, our duty is not something assigned to us by someone else. It's something that we're invited to discover, something that arises from the unique person that we are and how we respond to it. It describes the calling that we feel in the world It is that which compels us, as Marge Percy puts it, to jump head first into the work without dallying in the shadows and swim off with sure strokes out of sight. It's not some boring task that someone assigns us to do. It is work, in Percy's words, that is real. And in performing it, we do more than simply serve ourselves and our pleasure. We accomplish something larger than ourselves that makes some difference in the world. It may be small, it may be largely unknown, unobserved, but it still counts as one more stone in the mountain of hope. Even knowing that our lives will end doesn't diminish its value, he says. Rather, it enhances them. For each of us brings a unique identity and capacity to existence. By our very being, we influence the universe in ways beyond what we can know. We radiate something that will remain in the world long after our deaths. And we do it by how we are in relationship with a larger human community. Each of us is unique, Frankl says, in all kinds of interesting ways. But what gives that uniqueness meaning is what we are unique for. It is a possibility each of us embodies to put our genius, our unique capacity to work in the world in service to others. We may do this as active agents, working in ways that make things better, but we may also do it as people who create beauty, or simply in how we love others. In our loving, he says, one becomes an irreplaceable person, someone who by their very presence adds unique value to the lives of others. Even in suffering, he says, we can find a source of meaning. Our circumstances may be reduced, but we're still connected to the larger whole. While it is true, Frankl said, that thousands emerged from the concentration camps of World War II, haunted and broken, others were able to look on their survival, in his words, as undeserved mercy, and to earn it, to be halfway worthy of it, he said. It seemed there was only one thing left for us to do, to act, namely to act in our everyday lives. Living in the shadow of uncountable atrocities, they still saw how the gift of their survival gave them the opportunity to bring something into being, something hopeful, something new, something that hadn't happened into the world. It is, he said, what had motivated him in the face of hardship, suffering, and death, to say yes to life in spite of everything. So, the meaning of life? Well, certainly the woes we face today pale in the face of the Holocaust. But there's no question that they are testing us. Last March, in a matter of days, so many things we thought we had reason to count on changed in barely more than a heartbeat. Our schools and workplaces shut down, and we came to fear a disease we couldn't see or know how to avoid, other than separate ourselves from each other. Since then, we've learned more about it, but not enough to have any clear idea of what anything like a new normal might look like. I know I've had my moments when I pull up my mask on entering a store and mumble at a store clerk standing behind a plexiglass divider, when I wonder what will become of all this. But I also can't help but notice that among us are a critical few who are stepping forward in the face of hardship and danger and putting their calling to work. We've taken to calling them heroes, essential workers. They strain in the mud and the muck of bureaucracy and abuse and do what has to be done again and again. Sure, we've seen fear and selfishness, people who insist on their right to pleasure, their right to do whatever they darn well please. But behind them, quietly showing up, are others who are keeping at it, and others behind them who are stalwart in their love, showing us the meaning of life by living into their calling, their duty, and finding that, behold, their duty is joy.
to extinguish our chalice. Be about the work, Andrea Hawkins Camper. May we see all as it is, and may it be all as we see it. May we be the ones to make it as it should be. For if not us, who? And if not now, when? This is the cry of justice with the work of peace. This is redeeming the pain of history with the grace of wisdom. This is the work we are called to do. This is the call we answer now. To be the barrier and the bridge. To be the living embodiment of our principles. To be about the work of building the beloved community. To be a people of intention and a people of conscience. May it be so.
We have spent